Only.
Hello and welcome to Up Only TV. I'm Ledger. I've got the co-founder of Ethereum on in a minute, and also Vitalik Buterin. Thanks everybody for being with us for this episode. We're really excited to have Vitalik here. Let me tell you about FTX. Go to uponly.tv/FTX. Make a trade there today directly from one asset to the other. You can also earn yield on your tokens. And no trading fees, track your portfolio, all that good stuff. Thanks so much to FTX for being our partners. We appreciate them. Let's get straight to the episode with Vitalik. Hello, Kobe.
Hi, mate. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. Vitalik, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, too. What a coincidence.
That's great to hear. We're live on Twitch. There's just people spamming now. I'm going to try and not read it because it's too distracting. But welcome. Thank you so much for joining us and coming on. On Up Only, normally, like, we just get a bit drunk and talk about whatever happens. And I recently watched your episode of Bankless, so I don't want to create a tautological episode of just a reproduction of the same stuff. So maybe we'll even try and stay off cryptocurrency entirely. So I want to start with, like, what do you do outside of crypto? Like, how do you spend your time? What things are you interested in? What do you find entertaining?
Sure. Let's see. What do I do aside from cryptocurrency? I read things. One of the fun recent books that I read that's totally not in the crypto sphere. It's this fun book by David J. Peterson called The Art of Language Invention. Basically, this is written by a person who created fictional languages for like fairly mainstream fictional settings. So, like, for example, he has contracts with like the Game of Thrones people and like a lot of those kinds of fantasy and sci-fi shows, and like they actually go into a surprising level of detail to like actually like build out the languages that they speak, like whether it's Dothraki or High Valyrian or whatever, like really flesh out the grammar and like make sure that they say things where, you know, if the fans try to like reverse engineer from the language from what people say, they actually reverse engineer something that makes sense. And yeah, the book just like goes into a lot of really fascinating stuff into like how he does his craft, and even a lot of interesting things about how real languages evolve. So, you know, it's a really different and fascinating domain, but also a kind of surprisingly similar one, because like languages, just like economies and like, you know, like religions and cryptocurrencies and other lovely social systems like that, you know, they're the result of millions of people interacting with each other with often very strange and very chaotic consequences. Like how, you know how like in English, the word gate used to mean that, you know, like a structure kind of like a door that's kind of, you know, like protects a kind of space from the outside. But now the word gate is also a suffix and it means media scandal. So, you know, how did we do that? Well, it turns out that things like this happen in languages all the time. So, yeah, that was one fun example of a totally fun non-crypto thing.
What's your favorite like high fantasy series or book?
Ooh, that is a good question. I mean, as far as the movie series go, like I do think that Game of Thrones, not in season 7 and 8 never happened, but like the earlier ones was pretty good. Like I think one of the things that I disliked about some of the older high fantasy, like I just mean the classics, like even things like Lord of the Rings, is how they have this very unrealistic and even kind of boring, just kind of good versus evil divide, right? How, you know, the elves and the humans are good, and then the orcs are evil, and the orcs are just presented as this completely demonic thing. And like, you know, you might want to wonder, like, surely some of them want peace, surely they have families, surely they you know, have you know, go out and have fun once in a while, but like, no. And yeah, no, I've always had this kind of desire to see something at least kind of more interesting from that kind of sociological side, and I feel like Game of Thrones comes closer than a lot of other things.
Also in Lord of the Rings, the Elven language is incredibly beautiful, and the Orc language is just like grunts. They don't.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I struggle with English, so people writing other languages for fictional races or something is a little bit beyond me. Would you ever run a book club? Could I subscribe to the book club?
Interesting. I guess anything is possible in the future.
That was a very polite way of saying no.
No, I mean, it is. I mean, I don't know. Like, I do think anything is possible. Like, I don't know. 10 years ago, I would not have imagined myself doing the whole cryptocurrency thing. So,
Wait,
All right, that's maybe a good question then. Like 10 years ago, and I guess the origin story was this World of Warcraft moment with the item that's been immortalized. Maybe it's a fake story, maybe it's a real story. I don't mind. But 10 years ago, when like before this happened, what did you imagine yourself doing in the future?
let's see. Before I discovered Bitcoin, good question. Let's see. I think I just probably was not thinking too deeply about my long-term plans. I thought that, okay, here's school. I would do the school thing, and then I would do university, and then hopefully I would figure it out from there, and I like actually be able to have a decent life in the post-apocalyptic future where the U.S. dollar hyperinflates. Yeah, I don't really think I had deep specifics in mind, but then of course Bitcoin came along, and that was. Well, I guess, okay, at the beginning, it was definitely a side interest, and it turning into something I was really willing to sink all of my time in was definitely something that grew on me over a couple of years. I think it actually took me visiting the San Jose conference in May 2013 and just seeing that, like, hey, there's 1,000 real people here that are actually doing a whole bunch of real things that like really made me feel comfortable fully committing to the crypto space.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then you founded Bitcoin Magazine after that or before that?
No, I co-founded Bitcoin Magazine. Mihai Alicia, was the founder. He was definitely more adventurous than I was, and was very willing to commit to fully, really put his soul into this stuff back in 2011. He reached out to me saying, hey, do you want to be a writer? And I became the first writer. So Bitcoin Magazine was my thing for the first 2 years of my crypto life, and then started adding on other projects. I started like doing some bounties to do dev work for colored coins, and then a couple of other things. And then it's eventually Ethereum came along.
Did you at one point apply for a job at Ripple?
I did, yes.
Did they say no?
Yeah, well, so Jen McCaleb said yes in like about 2 minutes, but then the problem was that we then had to go and start fighting through all of the visa stuff. And it turns out that the usual channel for getting a visa, it had this rule that most people did not think about, which was that the company needed to have existed for at least a year. And at the time, Ripple Labs only existed for 9 months. And so that was like a big sticking point. And then they started looking through other possible channels. And eventually, like, I just ended up saying, okay, fine, I give up. I'm gonna go to Spain and like work for Mihai full time for the summer, and that like really set me on the rest of my journey. So I guess immigration restrictions can do some good sometimes, after all.
Yeah, there's a scary future where Ripple and Ethereum are the same thing.
I don't like it.
Oh no.
How impactful was the Canadian crypto scene? I've heard some stories about like people kind of co-working together or collaborating together in various formats. What was it like in the early days, and how did that impact the creation of Ethereum?
Yeah, there was this Canadian Toronto crypto community. Anthony DiOrio did a lot to really get it kickstarted. There was even a space called a Decentral early on. And it was a co-working space. Basically, he rented out this house at, I think it was King and Spadina, a bit south of there. And it was just, a bunch of crypto people working. Some Ethereum people did some work out of there at the beginning as well. So I guess that community did end up kind of like breaking down a bit, but I think a lot of the people who passed through there did end up like starting some really interesting things later on.
Do you wish you'd done anything differently back in those days? I remember an interview maybe where you said you thought Ethereum had too many co-founders, and Ethereum launched, I guess, in the fairest way possible at the time. And over time, the distribution model and launch model of coins has changed a lot. Do you think you could have done anything differently, or do you wish you'd done anything differently back then that would change the future now?
Yeah, no, the co-founders thing was definitely a big deal. Like starting or years down the line, one of the VCs who passed on Ethereum at the time told me that like the reason why, or at least a very big reason why, basically was that like they knew that projects with 8 co-founders just don't work. And I think like he was right that having 8 co-founders is a big problem. Like you just have all of these people that have like very different values and different ideas of what makes a good project and what they're trying to create. But I think the only thing that he underestimated was just like after that the initial kind of structure did break down, and turns out that Ethereum had this really amazing ability to bounce back. So that was one thing. There were a lot of like tiny technical decisions, like, oh, we should not have used Merkle-Patricia trees, we should have used binary trees right from the beginning. But I feel like those are a bit too boring for a podcast.
I was going to say the same thing anyway.
But kids, friends don't let friends do Hexary Merkle-Patricia trees.
Exactly. That's what I keep saying to Ledger, and he's always like, "Yeah, agreed."
Yeah, I know.
I've been told.
So let's see what else is there. I wonder, like, sometimes I wonder how things would have turned out if Ethereum had different distribution models from the beginning. So, like, one random example is, what if we had made, half the supply or 2/3 of the supply an airdrop to Bitcoin holders? Like, what if we had, instead of structuring it as a kind of de novo cryptocurrency, just made it a kind of fork of Bitcoin, BCH style, except with like some extra rules, and like there would be some pre-mine, but people understands that like it's this alternative vision that just tries the more radical direction. So that was one idea. Another possibility is like, what if we just threw in a very simple like voting DAO? So basically had no centralized foundation from the beginning, and just said, hey, if you buy into the pre-sale, then you get some level of like ability to decide like which group gets money to participate in building the project. Like basically try to create something that like really is fully credibly neutral, as the term that I used in my blog post on Nakamoto.com a couple of years ago. Like basically, if we tried much harder to make the Ethereum distribution like do a good job of being like fully credibly neutral, but at the same time like actually be enough to fund development, then would that have attracted more people who were otherwise like offended by the centralized pre-mine? Or is it like the haters are going to hate you anyway, so you might as well like do your thing and go all the way? Like, I don't know. These are the questions that I sometimes wonder.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And do you see now like Ethereum being sort of your life's work? Are you dedicated to it for the rest of your life, or do you see a future where maybe you don't work on Ethereum at all, it lives on without you in the hands of future Vitaliks? Like when Captain America gives the shield to someone else becomes a Vitalik and they go on. Do you see a future like that, and you do some farming or something?
I mean, I feel like Ethereum is going to be a big part of my life for a long, long time. And I do think that I am going to continue doing things that are kind of outside of being strictly just Ethereum, as I've started doing already, right? Like I've started doing some writings, a lot of which are very crypto oriented, but some of which are not. Doing funding the longevity space, and like just writing more general articles about cryptography and a couple of other things. So, I'm sure I will end up doing things other than Ethereum things, and like I've started doing some of that already. But I'm not expecting myself to abandon Ethereum.
Yeah,
Just
that makes
reminded
sense.
me.
All right.
Just reminded me of the rumors from 2017 when people thought you died and you had to put like a block number on the poster
Oh yes, that was fun.
I feel like
What? I don't remember that.
yeah, the market moved because of it. It was some like I don't remember what it was, some article.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of me that wants to just troll the market and like repeat that stunt again, but much more deliberately. But then, like
Could you?
I don't know. I worry that like
short it.
I don't know. I do worry that like my mom and dad and other people will just get really upset at me. So I probably won't actually do it in reality.
Yeah.
If you fake your death, it is likely your parents would be sad. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta warn them ahead of time.
Really, humans work that way? That's
You
so
could get them in
fascinating.
on it though. They could post a sad message.
It is true.
What is it like with Ethereum being like a family affair now? Like, I know your parents are like pretty involved in crypto, and obviously they see their son like do this thing and get really excited, and then get excited to the extent that they're like paying attention every day, involved in work within the ecosystem. What has that kind of evolution been like for you?
It is weird. Like it's definitely weird to see my dad, move from being this entrepreneurial, software company founder to now being a crypto influencer. And then, of course, there's my mom doing a part of Metis, the optimistic roll up that's focused on DAOs. So yeah, and I definitely wish them all the best. I guess it does make the family conversations at for Christmas and New Year's more interesting.
Like, Mom, I think ZK is really the way to go. I don't know about this optimistic thing.
On Ethereum for a little bit, because we will have to talk a bit about Ethereum. So
no, can't we talk about like Neo instead? I heard it's the Chinese Ethereum.
All right, okay, we can talk a little bit about Neo, because the other day you tweeted something that said, I can't remember exactly, it was like, if 80% of transactions are in a non-ETH currency, which of these do you want to win to the Ethereum community? And I think your poll options were like Bitcoin, USD, Solana, and Cardano for one poll, and in the other it was Tron, BNB, CNY, and Neo. What was the grand plan behind this poll, or was it just shitposting?
I think some of it was just fun, and then some of it was also just trying to get a feel for kind of what the community's values are. Do they really strongly value like the differences between Ethereum or the other cryptocurrencies to the point where they see one of the others as just being like evil or like even more centralized and dystopian than the status quo, or like do they ultimately have the vibe of like, hey, ultimately crypto's all in it together. And I do feel like the second one did kind of win. I think the majority vibe is that crypto's all in it together. I think USD and CNY were like the two least popular answers on that list. But then, of course, starting about a couple of hours in, like the whole poll became useless because it just got like brigaded to hell. Definitely like big congratulations to the Cardano community on winning the poll. The fact that you've won the poll shows that your community is excellent and that there are great things for Cardano to come in 2022. And of course, the same for Tron, right? Like, yeah.
What's happening with Tron now? Justin's left because he's gone to be like a politician, right?
Right, Justin's son has, I think, become like the Grenada's ambassador to the World Trade Organization or something like that.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good job.
Yeah. I mean, he's moved to a very sunny location.
Does it when people say, oh, it's like the Ethereum of China or the Ethereum of whatever? Does it bother you, or do you just like whatever? People are gonna do whatever they want.
I think I'm like whatever. Like, I don't know.
Enough.
People in crypto do crazy stuff. I'm kind of used to it.
Who was more exciting to meet, Ashton Kutcher or Vladimir Putin?
Good question. I mean, I feel like Ashton Kutcher is more interesting as a person.
Awesome.
What?
Well, Kobe, Russia just banned cryptocurrencies today, so like.
Because they knew that he was going to say this.
Wait, aren't they? Isn't it just like the central bank is recommending banning it and it's not passed yet? I mean, actually, yeah, haven't fully checked yet. Like usually, like full bans don't happen immediately, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, a central bank has recommended to the government that they ban mining and trading, I guess. In history, when authoritarian governments decide that they don't like crypto, it's normally bullish. So
yeah, exactly. And then, I mean, we're switching over to proof of stake anyway. So like the ability to, proof of stake is like way more censorship resistant. Like you just like you go from finding these people to being at like, finding this like big glowing power or like power consumer that like you can just find by looking at electricity readings to like, hey, any laptop is like could be running 13% of the network and like nobody's gonna know. So yeah, no. I mean, authoritarian governments, good luck.
I'm ignorant, and my assumption is that everyone else listening to this is just as ignorant as I am. So at what point did proof of stake become obvious to you in terms of it being the long-term solution rather than proof of work?
2014, I think I started warming up to proof of stake over time. Like maybe I first properly heard of the concept in 2013, and I thought, hey, this is a very promising research direction. And then in 2014, I started just going deeper and deeper into it and started understanding like what would a proof of stake chain actually look like, and like what are the trade-offs, what do we gain, what do we have to sacrifice, and like eventually I just like had a proper understanding of what the trade-offs are, and I got convinced. Ethereum has been on the road to proof of stake ever since.
Do you think the proof of stake switch will actually change the narrative that has been picked up by anti-crypto people around like an NFT burns down a forest and stuff like that? Do you think it will change, or do you think they're like resistant to facts?
Good question. I think some of both. Like I think there's clearly a big portion of like the public narrative machine that is completely resistant to facts. Like I've even literally seen like NFTs on Tezos and Solana, which are like proof of stake today, that get criticized for the environmental thing. So like even now, right, like you can go out and you can say like, hey guys, you do realize that like basically every major cryptocurrency except for one has an active plan to switch to proof of stake, and like to them it doesn't matter. I guess the argument will be even easier to make once Ethereum is proof of stake, and once Dogecoin's plans are further along and Zcash's plans are further along. But
wait, Dogecoin's going proof of stake?
Didn't they recently release something? Like community.
We need a request chat.
Just release some alpha.
Yeah, I think you just released this.
No,
chat is saying leaked.
No, it's out. It's already out there. Dogecoin Foundation, in collaboration with Vitalik Buterin, to create community staking, got published on last year on Christmas. Yeah, no, this stuff.
All right. Mm-hmm. All right, we're just uninformed, Ledger. Yeah. We need a research assistant.
Do
you regret the actual name NFT in any way? Like, do you think that it's going?
I did not come up with the name.
I saw in the 721 proposal. That
I was not. Yeah.
They called it. We called it a deed a lot of times in it, but then it kind of settled on NFT. What would you have?
Right. Good question.
Back to your language skills here.
Yeah, no, I don't know, because like I think, as I might have said like in a couple of other places, NFTs are like the one big application that I just totally did not see coming.
Oh, really?
That's quite interesting, because in the Ethereum white paper, there was like a premonition on DAOs, on algorithmic stablecoins, on prediction markets, on lots of stuff that over the last sort of half decade has come into fruition. NFTs not being one of them's pretty interesting, particularly because NFTs was one of the things that in the last couple of years has onboarded so many people into the crypto ecosystem, and there's been like a really big hit with like new retail participants. So I guess a couple of questions is like, one, why do you think NFTs were so successful in capturing that like mainstream narrative? And two, if you did a new white paper today, what does the future look like? Which I accept as a much harder question.
Okay. So I think, with NFTs, like there's definitely this like desire to have digital collectibles and digital property that has been like very strong among a lot of people for a long time, right? Like you have artworks that get traded and sometimes go up to the millions of dollars. You've had baseball cards, like you've had websites. I think even 10 years ago, privatejet.com cost more than a private jet. So like virtual property is a thing, including pure collectibles and including like the things like websites that are domain names that are like collectibles attached to something that actually is really like valuable if enough people use the internet. And like blockchains and crypto kind of went up at around the same time. And so I think that like just gave like this boost of extra legitimacy to the concept. And I think they have attracted also a lot of people because this might be one of the first big use cases other than cryptocurrency and DeFi to really become mainstream, right? And it's a way for a lot of artists to get money, and even a lot of artists who would normally have a hard time kind of breaking out. Like there's African, like Ethiopian artists I know who are using NFTs. There's a lot in Latin America, and like crypto in general, I think people are underappreciating the extent to which it is, and like it actually is this like very far from perfect, but still kind of surprisingly effective channel for people who are like in these countries that are far from the traditional kind of wealthy country club to get acknowledged and recognized. Like the other big example, I visited Argentina recently, and there's a lot of great projects that where part of their team is based in Argentina that are making a big impact to the entire Ethereum space, like Kleros, Proof of Humanity, OpenZeppel, and Nomic. That's entire list. And NFTs are another good example of this. Like musicians and artists, I feel like a lot of them have probably been crypto curious for a long time, but this is like an opportunity where like, hey, here we can actually get in.
Uh-oh.
He's going to do the thing again. Oh, yeah. He's back.
So
at least it's a good frame, a good freeze
respectively, I see where people are coming from.
Look at the chat, Ledger. We're getting rugged live. It's like Shiba all over again.
Vitalik is.
No,
he's just
is this better?
No. Mm-hmm. There it is. Oh, you're starting to catch up. It's fast.
We're maybe back. The chat just said he's selling. He's selling.
So for the chat, while Vitalik comes back, before the show, he froze, and then he completely disappeared, and then walked into the frame like 2 seconds later.
It was magical.
It was very good. Vitalik, you might be. No, you froze again. I don't know.
Gas fees are too high on his laptop.
Yeah.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4.
He's back.
There you are.
He has returned to us.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you. Yeah. No. So I think I was mentioning we were talking about the Argentinian developers and like NFTs as just examples of how people in outside of the traditional rich country club can actually kind of get recognized globally in a way that seems easier than in, like, say, the traditional tech industry. But in terms of where the future is going, I think one of the kind of discourses that is going to happen over the next few years is like how to move crypto beyond financialization, right? Like basically, I think so far, we've been seeing a lot of tokens, we've been seeing a lot of tradable things, we've been seeing a lot of infrastructure in how to make trading better. But sometimes there's also a lot of value in trading of certain things being hard. Like one random example, right? Like let's say, for example, there's some agency that issued certificates if you successfully climbed Mount Everest, right? And let's say, people would go and climb Mount Everest, and they would feel a lot of pride, and they would have this certificate. They're like, hey, I'm this amazing mountaineer. I completed the hardest challenge in the world. But then imagine a world where those certificates become NFTs, and those NFTs are fully tradable. once that happens, like, what does that NFT mean, right? It stops meaning like, hey, I climbed Mount Everest. It starts meaning like, hey, I paid some random guy on the internet a few $1,000s. So, like, things being tradable often like cheapens the thing and makes it less useful in a whole bunch of ways. I also talked about this a lot historically in the context of governance, how if votes become tradable, then a DAO can often collapse very quickly, right? And in like traditional democracies, we have this long tradition of like secret ballots where like, not only are your votes secret, but you can't prove you voted, even if.
Not only the vote's secret, the rest is a secret too. The whole thing's a secret.
It's all a secret.
Sorry, there we go. Better now?
Yeah.
Hey,
So.
the whole scene changed.
Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, no, I moved a couple meters closer to the internet. Amazing how, yay, still. Yeah, so basically, like in voting, right, like we have this long tradition of secret ballots where not only is your ballot secret by default, but you can't prove to someone else how you voted, even if you really want to, right? And it turns out that that's really important because if it was possible to prove, then like someone could pay people for their votes, some people could start forcing each other to vote in a particular way, and democracy would just work much worse, right? So there's a lot of these examples for how like making it harder to trade things and like putting barriers in against financialization of certain things like is something that is very valuable. So one of the things that I care about and kind of wants to push for is like basically this question of like how can the blockchain space incorporate more of that? Like, we have cryptocurrencies, and cryptocurrencies are great, and it's amazing that we have them. But we do also potentially wants to have these other kinds of like crypto things that are not exactly the same thing as property and are not tradable in the same way, that just have all of these other functions. And I feel like there's a lot of like work and thinking starting to go into this already, but there probably needs to be quite a bit more. So that's one of what I'll probably end up fleshing out myself over the next few years.
It does feel like a more sophisticated leap away from coins with dog logos, for certain. On Ethereum stuff, what do you think is the biggest research question that, as a community, we need to solve now?
I feel like there aren't that many research questions left at this point. Like, I feel like
just a product question.
All of the important stuff at this point is like a software development and optimization question, right? So like as an example, proof of stake, we know how to do proof of stake. We just have to get it out there. Sharding, we have been, I think, fairly settled on the question of like how sharding works, like, the concepts of like data availability sampling and how to do execution and all these things. The question is now just like actually implementing them. ZK snarks, we know that you can ZK snark anything, but if you want to ZK snark, say, the Ethereum blockchain, by the way, for those listeners who don't know, a ZK snark is basically a way to cryptographically prove that you ran some program and that program had a particular output without revealing what the data is that you're doing a computation on, and where the proof is much easier to verify than doing the computation yourself, right? So like one example would be, I can personally like run an Ethereum, like a program, like basically an Ethereum node that verifies the entire Ethereum blockchain, and then I can make a big proof that says I did this, and the program told me that all the blocks are correct. And then if anyone else wants to be convinced that the entire Ethereum blockchain is valid, they don't have to go and check it themselves. They can just verify my proof, which is like really easy to see, right? So really amazing technology. We know how it works. We know how to use it, but there's still like a whole bunch of annoying optimizations that have to be done to make it practical. Maybe one area of like really not fully solved research questions would be the MEV and like transaction ordering space. So this is basically like there are large incentives to be very kind of like put a lot of effort and a lot of resources into figuring out like which transactions could you include into the next block first in order to get as much profit as possible. Like, it could be arbitraging between different exchanges. So like one very simple example might be, let's say right now, the price of ETH to ETH to DAI is about 32.20, and let's say one block from now the price on Binance jumps up to 32.30, but then the price on Uniswap is still 32.20, right? So if you can get the first transaction in, you could just immediately claim that difference and you can make a bit of money off of that, right? So basically like fully understanding like this phenomenon and figuring out how to prevent that from being a risk that could centralize the blockchain space is like there has been a lot of thinking, but it's still one of those spaces where there could be more thinking. So
Flashbots just become our rulers. We all must bow to the Flashbot gods.
I guess well, hopefully, in our ideal world, we'll have an amazing decentralized Flashbots, and the whole thing is not just going to be something that like gives a couple of $1 million to like some random mining pool or VC firm somewhere. I don't know. I think I'm optimistic.
Fair enough. So if you don't think there are too many research questions and it's software and technical optimization, what do you think the biggest product hurdles that wallets need to overcome, like the biggest user experience hurdles for crypto?
The one kind of drum that I always bang on is like wallet security, and particularly things like multi-sig and social recovery. So once again, for I guess listeners that are not familiar. So most crypto wallets, so the way they work is you have one private key, right? It's like a number. It's about 32 digits long, or 32 bytes long, and your computer stores the number. If you lose that number, then you lose your account forever. If someone else gets your number, like whether they hack into your computer or whatever, then they can basically steal everything you have. So the alternatives, one of them is multi-sig, where you create an account that has, like, let's say, for example, 3 keys. And one of those keys is on your laptop, one of those keys is on your phone, and a third key might be owned by some like institution or owned by a friend. And you need 2 out of those 3 keys to actually transfer any funds, right? So like normally you just sign everything with your laptop and your phone and you're fine. But if you lose one of those devices, then you can appeal to, the institution or your friend or whoever else, and they can kind of recover the wallet for you. But then alternatively, if this institution or your friend or whoever you're trusting for the third key decides to betray you, they can't actually do anything for themselves by themselves because they need 2 keys and you have the laptop and the phone. So that's multi-sig. Social recovery basically says you have an account, and then you're going to choose a list of what we call guardians. So guardians, once again, they could be friends, they could be institutions, and you have like some number of guardians, and you need more than half of those guardians. More than half of those guardians have the ability to recover your account, right? So, like, for example, like I do this with my cold wallet, right? Like I have 6 guardians, and these are like just trusted individuals who do not know who each other are, and 4 out of 6 of them can kind of sign off on a transaction. So basically the idea here, right, is that like in the centralized world, there's a lot of these conveniences, there is this concept of account recovery, right? Like if you lose your accounts, then like in theory you can appeal to some authority, and like it's complicated, but you can get your account back. I mean, in crypto, like right now, it's this very kind of relatively scary thing where you have to deal with either this constant risk that you'll lose everything, or if you kind of try to overcompensate for that, then you have a higher risk that everything gets stolen. And I believe in these 2 ideas. I wrote an article on social recovery. If you go to my blog, vitalik.ca, then you can scroll down and there's one called I think if you just like Control F for the phrase social recovery, you'll find it. But I talk about these ideas, and I talk about why they're important. It's the projects that are actually doing them. So, oh, there we go. Amazing. Yeah. So there are some technical barriers to making this really easy to use for Ethereum people, but like I've been pushing some efforts to make some of those technical barriers smaller or go away, or like get past them in various ways. So
How do you?
yeah, that is what.
How do you think application-specific wallets play into this concept? Because when you have this multi-authenticated transaction, like it's really hard to do anything. But if crypto is going to be part of our daily life, like how can you reduce your risk profile in other ways? I know there's, I guess it's EIP 1775. I don't know if that's a real thing or if there's another one. Taylor from My Crypto recently was talking about essentially being able to control, use one wallet to kind of do an action on another wallet, and how that could blend together to reduce your risk profiles.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is part of the usability challenge, right? Like, I think realistically, wallets are going to need to have like different addresses, where some of those addresses are social recovery addresses, so you can still like sign and send things with one key, and then some of those addresses will be like full-on multi-sig vaults, where you need like these multiple people to sign off to do anything. And obviously, the high-value stuff goes in the vaults, and then the low-value stuff goes in the social recovery. And that is figuring out how to present that to the user well is definitely a challenge. I mean, figuring out how to present lots of things well to the user is a challenge. Like the user experience of getting better privacy is another significant challenge going forward as well.
Ledger, I loved that because you was like trying to explain an EIP, and you was like, I could tell you were nervous, but you made it through. You explained your point. I enjoyed it. Vitalik, I want to ask you a question, and I think this is maybe the most important question in the world. And I'm going to present you an option of 4 people, and you have to tell me which of these people, in your opinion, is most likely to be Satoshi Nakamoto.
Okay.
Are you
We've
ready?
got 4 options for you. We're going to do. We're going to do twice.
All right.
You ready, Ledger?
I'm ready.
Yeah. Question 1. We've got Craig Wright. We've got Charles Hoskinson. We've got Elon Musk, and we've got anonymous Blueberry Loom Dart. If you had to pick one person that was Satoshi out of these, which one are you going to go with?
I'd go with the Blueberry.
Loom Dart is Satoshi. All right, Ledger, slide number 2. Let's go with the Blueberry. All right.
Oh.
We've got Justin Sun. We've got CZ. We've got Joe Lubin. And we've got the inventor of the Roomba.
Interesting. I'll take the Lubin. Why not?
It's Lubin confirmed. And then if you had to, like, open question, if you had to pick anyone in the world, who do you think is most likely? And you can just point to yourself if you want.
Let's see. I mean, I feel like if I had to say one person, I would say Hal Finney. But even there, like, I would bet against Hal Finney, right? Like, I think the chance is kind of very distributed among a lot of people.
Yeah, okay. So, like, Hal Finney is most likely, but it's still, like, sub 1%.
I mean, I would say above 1. I would say sub 20, between 1 and 20.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Fair
You have
enough.
to pay me $8,000 an hour, or 80 ETH an hour to think about that.
80 ETH an hour. Is that where you're going, right?
And I don't know. I just came up with the number. I like it. All proceeds will be donated to the Gitcoin Grants Matching Fund.
Speaking of donating proceeds, how good did it feel dumping Shiba to 0 or whatever it was, or however many billions of dollars it was, going towards charity? You might have killed the market, by the way, and also my net worth when you did that. But what did it feel like?
It was like scary and fun at the same time. The scary part, right, is that basically this is like more money than I've ever had. And in order to get rid of it, I had to follow this like really complicated technical procedure to basically, like, first of all, I had to like actually take the the funds were originally all in a cold wallet, right? That accounts the 0xAB5, whatever. Like that was originally a cold wallet, and the cold wallet, like there were paper backups, and the paper backups were in the form of two numbers that were both written on paper, where if you add the two numbers together, you get the private key. One of those numbers were with me. The other number was with my family in Canada. So I had to call up my family in Canada, tell them to read their number to me, then add the two numbers together and input that into a computer. And then for some amount of time, like basically, I mean, I did have this computer that was like online, and
billions of dollars in it.
Yeah, well, okay, I did move my ETH by doing the what did I do again? Oh, right. I remember what I did to take my ETH out. I generated a transaction, and then on a computer that I bought from Target for about $300 for just for this purpose. Before fully disconnected it, I downloaded a program that would generate QR codes. So when I generated the Ethereum transaction, that would take my ETH out and move it to my new multisig, and that program created a QR code of the transaction. Then I scanned the QR code with my phone, then copied it from my phone to my laptop, and then put it into etherscan.io/pushtx. And then after that, finally, moved the computer over to my laptop and actually started uniswapping and sending all of the dog coins around. So it was like a very kind of technically scary and involved procedure in a way that would probably make a good plot for a James Bond movie eventually, but maybe not yet.
I feel like all the bank robbery movies just got much more boring because it's just people typing, like nerds.
On the James Bond comment, I saw you tweeted something recently, which I can't remember the exact wording again, but you said something like, "What is the best deranged/meme comment that you've seen about me?" And one of them was that you were a Bond villain. There's like these other screenshots you'd taken. Do you store them all in screenshots? Do you save them all to like this new laptop?
I definitely save all the good ones that I can find.
Why do you how do you see them? Is it just you're browsing the internet and it comes up, or do people send you them? Should I in the future send you the best ones I see?
I mean, usually so far I only have the ones that come up for me. So yeah, if you have better ones, then please do send them to me.
Have you ever thought about replying? Because if you think about it from the perspective of the insulter, right? They're on the internet, they're having a bad day for some reason. They've maybe had a bad year. There's been a pandemic, like times are hard. They see something, they see, Vitalik's done something, and they're like angry, and they start typing their insult, and then they move on and they go to insult something else, or maybe they make themselves a drink. But then they come back to their phone a bit later, and you've gone, you have replied? What do you say?
Trying to remember. I think, because for my last year in 2021, I was following my self-imposed Twitter quarantine, where the only thing I was tweeting was links to my long-form stuff. So this was all more than 1 year ago, but I think I just what would I tweet? My simulation of myself in 2020 and of myself today would reply something like, "But why do you think I'm a demonic imbecile?"
Have you ever considered just replying like "Yo mama" or something? That's what we should do next time. Try it next time.
Good question. Yeah, that's a fun one. Yeah, we'll think about it.
Just try it next time and let me know how it goes.
I have two questions. They're about these two pictures. So one is, what was the origin of Vitalik, and do you ever see yourself, beefing up in the future? And two was, I need to know for the Vitalik, were you leaning or was it the camera rotation? I don't know which.
I guess I wonder, well, first, can I ask, since FTX is apparently a sponsor, is FTX stand for Vitalik Exchange?
Yes, the answer is yes.
Okay, amazing. I don't know. I was not part of the whole Vitalik thing. That was other people.
Didn't they raise money or something? Did you ever get the money?
Doesn't remember.
I don't know. I forget. And then
maybe someone got millions of dollars for photoshopping your head onto this man.
Yeah, the picture from Sutro Baths, I think that actually was the camera leaning.
That is probably my favorite Vitalik meme. It's a good one.
Aw, that's so lovely.
What's your favorite Vitalik meme?
It's a good question.
I like the recent WAGMI one. There's like a WAGMI t-shirt or GMI t-shirt or something.
Oh yes. The WAGMI t-shirt was lovely.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I think that's pretty good. All right, so back to some more serious topics. You recently put like a thesis out onto Reddit. I think it was about how you see the future being multi-chain but not cross-chain because of security assumptions within those bridges. Do you think that in some ways flies a little bit in the face of reality, given that we've got like Tether and USDC and wrapped Bitcoin, and they're all virtually trusted bridges, and users and operators are fine with it? Or do you think it gets worse when the chains have like lower security themselves? Or
it's worse when you start talking about pure crypto assets, right? Because like the thing with USDT and USDC is that if you meant like, so first of all, like the underlying assets are actually held in a bank account and they're not held in a smart contract somewhere. But second, like even if I do manage to steal $20 billion of USDT and USDC, like they can just not recognize that, right? Like, and they can just say like, okay, this is an emergency situation and we're going to issue a new one and we're going to credit all the existing holders except for you. And they'll have a pretty good legal case for why it's valid for them to do that. But on the other hand, if we're talking about like there being, 5 million ETH inside of a contract that is the Ethereum Solana bridge, and that breaks, like, no man, the attacker has possibly got 5 million ETH. And, if the thing happens in reverse, then they might get like a big percentage of the Solana coins. So I think in some ways, like this crypto to crypto kind of cross bridging stuff is even higher risk than fiat to crypto. And then the other side of the equation to me is like, what is going to be easier? Like, is it going to be easier to safely bring your Ethereum coins over to Solana, or is it going to be safer to take whatever application you were using on Solana and make a copy of it on Ethereum, or the other way around? And like, I think, the second one is just easier. So I feel like we'll just see a lot more of the second.
It's interesting because a lot of this, at least the last year or so, has been people taking the application from Ethereum and copy pasting it onto the Avalanche like EVM chain, or in Solana's case, recreating it. And BSC again had a big like copy paste sort of bubble. And I guess the reason is for retail, Ethereum fees are too high. There's a barrier to entry for people with small portfolios. And I remember, I think you said in your thread reflecting on previous predictions, you said the Internet of Money should not cost more than 5 cents per transaction. Do you think this is still the goal for Ethereum? And do you think it's achievable with sharding and L2 basically?
I'd say yes.
Sorry, 3 questions in one's too many. But do you think there's any other credible roadmap to achieving that goal at scale?
I feel like the only the other roadmaps to achieving that goal at scale basically do end up sacrificing on decentralization or security to some degree or other, right? Like either you create this like very big blockchain and it becomes really centralized, and even then it only does like 1,000 TPS, and then you start eventually, like once you start going into the hundreds of thousands of TPS, you start realizing that like, oh wait, I need layer 2. Or the other possibility is, you do take this kind of radically cross-chain roadmap. But the problem with that roadmap is that, if you start having these applications and ecosystems that like float across 100 different chains, then any one of those chains getting attacked could create a systemic risk to the entire ecosystem. Whereas, like, people basically, I think they don't realize the extent to which one blockchain breaking is actually like not that bad compared to multiple blockchain things happening in multi-chain ecosystems, because if one chain breaks, ultimately you can revert everything, right? And like if you revert it, you at least like, sure, there's a few transactions that are not going to happen, but at least everyone, like the entire system is still in a consistent state, right? Like if today I have 100 ETH and I go on Uniswap and I sell it for 320,000 DAI, but then it turns out that I did that during a really crazy security breach, then okay, fine, the chain reverts a bit, but either I get 100 DAI or I get 320,000 USDC, right? Or DAI or whatever I sold it for. Like either one of those is a sane outcome. There isn't like a world where I get 100 ETH and 320,000 DAI. There isn't a world where I get nothing. But once you start creating multi-chain applications where one chain can revert without the other chain, then those kinds of things do become possible, right? And like recovery becomes so much more messy. And of course, recovery might end up just needing to coordinate across multiple communities, and it starts becoming really crazy. So that's the kind of the big reason why I'm more skeptical of this kind of like massively multi-chain approach. I mean, it's very possibly the correct approach for some things that are closer to being self-contained applications, but not so much for creating the DeFi internet or like whatever you want to call it. So that's why I am a fan of the layer 2 uncharting roadmap. I think layer 2s are getting better and better. There's work happening on introducing like data compression to the optimistic rollups, which should make them like maybe 1.5 to 2 times cheaper. There's work like if you do like full compression all the way, you can make them, I think, like basically as cheap as the ZK